Are you eager to discover C-level strategies aimed at accelerating RIA growth? Join us at RIA Edge Los Angeles, taking place at the Ritz-Carlton on October 7th and 8th. Register today by visiting riaedgela.com and save 10% with code WM2025.
Welcome to the WealthStack podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Rosic, the director of WealthStack Content Solutions. Today, we're diving deep into the future of wealth management and exploring how AI is transforming the advisor-client relationship and what it means for personalization at scale. And yes, we will certainly unpack all of those buzzwords in this conversation. And I have the pleasure of being joined by Ken Lotocki, Chief Product Officer of Conquest Planning. Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Me too. This is long overdue. We've had a lot of in-person time, so now we're virtual, sitting on the mic. So happy to be chatting with you. And I always joke with my guests that because I like to start with their background, and it's certainly the hardest question you'll get this entire conversation because I want to know what makes Ken, both personally and professionally. And yes, I will be referencing Kenergy in the podcast. And folks, if you know, you know. So Ken, tell us about yourself.
So I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I've been here all my life. Married to someone also named Shannon, different Shannon. And I have three daughters, 18, 17, and 12. I've been lucky enough to work in the financial planning software industry for over 20 years now. I was part of the original EISI Naviplan crew with our president and CEO, Dr. Mark Evans, and helped found Conquest in 2018. What makes me, I think I can point to my background a little bit.
Literally your background.
Yeah, literally my background, maybe organized chaos. There is a method to the madness behind me. Lots of things that I do and collect. Hockey fan, Cleveland Browns fan, sorry, for those who aren't. I think the biggest thing for me is like what makes me, and I guess what brings the Kenergy, if I can steal it, is just I love what I do, and I'm lucky enough to be in a space that allows me to build the things that I like. And we're passionate here at Conquest about financial planning, and I always make the joke we're all a bunch of nerds that get to play with software and do cool things, and then we get to work with some of the best financial advisors around the world, and then meet folks like you, Shannon. So yeah, that's me at a high level.
I love it, but I just need to circle back about this Cleveland Browns thing. The Jets, I understand in Winnipeg, but Cleveland Browns, what?
So one of the very first posters that I bought in elementary school at one of those book fairs, I'm not sure if you have those in the US, you probably have something similar.
Like the Scholastic book fairs, lived for those, yes.
Yeah, so one of the first posters I bought was a Bernie Kosar poster. So then I was like, okay, it's the Browns. At that time, everyone's, especially Winnipeg, they're either Vikings or Steelers fans, right? And I'm like, for some reason, I'll go with the one that's the color brown.
Nice and neutral.
And it just stuck. Yeah, I'm more of an autumn tone guy, right? So despite the blue shirt, so why not?
Absolutely. Brings out your eyes, right? So, All right. Well, you guys have an interesting season ahead of you with your 87 quarterbacks, but best of luck to you this year. All right, total tangent. All right, I promise, folks, we talk tech a little bit on this podcast, just a little bit. But I do appreciate you sharing your background. But give listeners just a quick overview of Conquest Planning and who you serve.
Sure. No, so we are a financial advice platform focusing on financial planning. So we built the platform to scale or I should actually wind that up. So we are a B2B platform. So we work with financial institutions in North America, so Canada and the US. We are also live in the UK. So we sell to anywhere from large banks to RIAs, insurers, everyone else, for them to use our software to work across the different wealth spectrums. That's the scalability part, from mass market clients to lead gen, prospecting, group retirement services, all the way to ultra high net worth. And as this is our second go around building financial planning software, what we did this time is build something that's extensible. We have kind of some secret sauce and some differentiators that I won't spoil yet, because I think we're going to get into those. And build something that's a very tech forward platform that essentially can be embedded into the ecosystem of a lot of our partners. And so our entire ethos, our entire core of the business is to get more advice in the plan, more advice into the hands of everyone, every single end client that we can do. And if we can do that by making advisors and firms more efficient, then we're winning. So
I love
that's who
it.
we serve.
Well, like you said, we're going to get under the hood a little bit, and I appreciate that background and context. And I want to dive into our first segment, Ken, that I affectionately call Stats All Folks. If you're a Looney Tunes fan, there you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, yeah.
I came across an interesting stat from the World Economic Forum this year that said around 85% of advisors reported winning clients due to state of the art tech, which to
Mhm.
me, that kind of suggests that clients value and perhaps expect that AI driven personalization now, even though you constantly hear that, clients at the end of the day don't necessarily care which tech their advisors are using. They just want it to
Mhm.
work and have a good experience. But
For
from
sure.
your perspective, how is Conquest helping advisors deliver that tech enabled personalized planning at scale?
Yeah, no, great question. The biggest thing is we don't want advisors in our tool very often, and clients want more face time. So we believe that our platform deliberately being built state of the art, both for the underlying tech and some of the algorithms and things that we have in the system, allows advisors to build plans more efficiently, more effectively, and spend way less time in them. So that ability for them to kind of end up working, coaching, communicating with the end client, fulfilling on the product opportunities, fulfilling on some of the strategies, fulfilling on some of the things that are coming out of it is really, I think, where that comes from. So they're going to win clients by spending less time in technology. They're going to win clients by not re-entering data. They're going to win clients by having bespoke advice, bespoke content, things like that that can really speak to the end client. And so for us, that stat is I believe in it. That's why we do what we do. That ability to provide the right tools at the right time. We sometimes use the joke. Well, I guess it's not so much of a joke, but like you could have the world's greatest golfer in the world, but if they're hitting or if they're hitting, let's say old clubs from the 1920s and things like that, they're not going to do as well as they could if they're using state of the art clubs and state of the art golf equipment. And I'm using a golfer in that analogy because I'll kind of spin back later when we talk about Sam. So just so we can have a little bit of throwback. But anyways, that I totally believe, and that's what we're doing. Better technology, better tech stack, better mousetrap to allow advisors to spend more time with their clients and actually serve more clients at the same time.
Well, I love a good sports analogy. So, like you said, we'll definitely be doing a callback to that here in a little bit.
Yeah.
But it certainly sounds like Conquest is at the center of this evolution. And we'd be remiss if we didn't at least talk a little bit about AI. We'll get it out of the way early here. But
Yes.
how do you see AI redefining how advice is delivered overall?
Yeah. So like anything, AI is a tool. It's not a solution. It's not a thing necessarily that it will replace some mundane functions. It may get better over time, and who knows what it'll end up doing, 50, 100 years down the road. But really, in our world, AI is a way to take away a lot of the things that people don't like to do but have to do, and it can be anything from, taking data from another system and moving it to another. It could be providing better content and better descriptions around really financial literacy, helping with that type of thing. It in our world and what we've done with our strategic advice manager or SAM, as I called them previously, or called it, I should say. What SAM is an algorithm that looks at who the client is, what the client has, their goals, their planning preferences, their risk tolerance, and works as a buddy, a caddy to the golfer, with the advisor to suggest and guide and basically bring up the next best financial solution to the advisor using our system or to the end client who might be using us in a self-directed experience. So in our case, well, with any AI always requires a human to go and say, hey, what did you come back with? It's essentially doing the first draft for you, sometimes a second draft, and sometimes some light editing. But those are steps in previous times might cause someone to take 10 to 17 hours to continually go back and refine and check and update and so on. And so AI is going to get rid of that. And so that 10 to 17 hours is dramatically reduced by leveraging and working with AI that comes back and says, hey, here's all the information you provided. It's got to have the proper sources and the proper content, and the proper information that would have access to. It's not going off to Reddit or something silly like that when it's coming back with a conclusion. But in the end, all those things essentially means that a human working in partnership with AI can do things that much faster and much more effectively.
I'm a firm believer of human in the loop, so I don't think that's
Absolutely.
changing anytime
No,
soon.
no, hopefully not. Not in our lifetime.
Hopefully, right, exactly. So you've mentioned Sam a couple of times, so I want to get
Yes.
into that a little bit. And when we start gendering AI, that's a whole other
Sorry, no,
conversation.
Sam is not a Sam is multi-gender. What are you gonna call it? No, I have no idea.
Either either
Yeah,
way, we'll go with the
yeah,
PC version of the
yes,
it. So
Sam is it.
that is it. So you've obviously launched an innovation like Sam to help advisors stay connected to
Yep,
self-directed investors, but just dig into Sam a little bit. What exactly is
sure.
it? How can advisors use it? And maybe even what role do you see kind of like hybrid advice models playing in the
For
future of
sure.
wealth management?
Yeah, so Sam's at the core of our engine. It is the as again stands for strategic advice manager. So in any good planning tool, there's an area that you go to try a different combination of things to make it work for the client. In our previous tool and in other tools that are out there, it's sometimes trial and error based and so on. And so Sam was specifically architected to take the guesswork out of planning by looking at all the permutations that exist within a plan. It's also architected to help get advice early because, as any advisor will tell you, you don't get all information in the first go. It comes over time. And so when you're dealing with one of those trial and error systems, you know, essentially things become very episodic. You kind of have to be done and you go with it or you forget you're going to make updates. But with Sam is you can start providing value very early on if someone comes to you with like income and their demographics and then maybe the next day they come back with their accounts and I actually own a small business or I have this. And so Sam and the way it's built is promotes the concept of additive planning instead of episodic planning. Always looking for new solutions, always looking for new suggestions, always looking for new ways to find improvements on the plan. The advisor is still going to go in and edit and add their own spin and add their own style to it. And firms can customize and configure specifically to their needs as part of it. But in the end, Sam is essentially kind of a digital fiduciary from a planning perspective, always looking for ways to get that advice out to the end client as quick as possible.
And you hear so many advisors complain about legacy, planning tools that are clunky and outdated.
Yeah,
So, how does Conquest address that friction for both advisors and
yeah,
their clients? How does your solution fit into their stack?
yeah. And actually, I'll touch on the hybrid piece that you mentioned as well in
Hmm.
the previous question because I think
Please.
it ties into it together. So Sam as the basically the system to suggest things and pull it together. Essentially, what it is, especially with end clients using the system. As strategies are presented, as new things come up and so on, they're learning, they're becoming more educated, they're engaging with the system potentially on digital fulfillment, or they're potentially, asking questions or sending their plan up to the advisor for more. So the hybrid channel in that case is the system looking out for the client engaging with the system, and then the advisor going to say what was the results generated as part of the system, as part of SAM, and then working together to execute on that. The clunkiness specifically is in a lot of cases in previous tools or in other tools. If you don't know how it works, if you as an advisor aren't well trained and figure things out, the clunkiness potentially comes in is that you're trying to get things done. And if you have to spend 17 hours on a financial plan, there's two things that are going to happen. One is you're going to tend to focus only on the high net worth people and forget that there's a whole giant segment of people who also need financial advice. And two, you might miss something. Like if you have to, if you move a widget one way and then you got to go look at a report to see what it did over here, and then you got to go look at a graph and see what it did over here, and you're going to lose track. I almost lost track on that whole analogy there, but anyways, you're going to lose track of having to go back and forth. And what we've really tried to do, and actually not even tried, what we have done successfully in our system is as you make these minute changes, as Sam suggests these things, you see the updates in real time. Sam regenerates, it comes back. And really the big thing there is not only are we trying to instill confidence in the user of the software and confidence in the end client who's getting these strategies and suggestions, we're doing our best to remove that clunkiness. Like we want it to be as seamless as possible. We want data in as seamless as possible. We want strategies built as seamless as possible, all the way to the fulfillment side. And that as you add strategies to the plan, we have a lot of firms that are taking that strategy and pushing it to the fulfillment systems to open the account or reallocate the portfolio or open the insurance policy. And for both the client and the advisor, it feels seamless as it should.
And I know we talked a few months ago when we were at Wealth Management Edge about all the inroads that Conquest has made with, I think it's over 1.5 million financial plans that have been signed up for.
Yeah.
So, everything that you do is kind of ladders back up to that ethos of we want to serve all, not just the high net worth. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious, has that number moved at all?
Yes, it has. It's going to get to 1.6, 1.7 pretty it's moving in the right direction. It's pretty quickly. Now, it's interesting. We do have a lot of high net worth and ultra high net worth plans. The way we built the system is we kind of started in the middle, supporting mass affluent, and that was where the highest content or the highest number of plans are. But as we've started to go down market and roll our software out to a lot of lead gen prospecting models and group retirement models, that what we call self-directed or almost tier one or light planning world is slowly out kicking the mass affluent and ultra high net, which would you expect because that's where the population everywhere it is. So it's interesting. It's fun to see. The other thing we're seeing is the conversion rate of those tier one self-directed plans into advised relationships, which I think is even more important. So yes, we're getting advice downstream to the end consumer, but those lead gen prospectings are actually turning into relationships with firms and relationships with banks. So super interesting, super fun.
That is. And those numbers are incredibly impressive. And I want to call it another one because Conquest actually recently raised 80 million in a Series B funding, which congratulations, because it has to be fun to see all those zeros at the end of the day. So I'm curious, how are you planning to deploy that capital to accelerate product innovation and even US expansion and beyond?
Yeah, no, great question. So definitely on the U.S. expansion piece, I mean, we are fully live in the U.S. right now. We have some clients in the U.S. that are using Conquest. We aren't forgetting our Canadian market. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that as well. So there is some things that we're doing there as well to further enhance the software and add a few things. Um, the one core piece with our engine, we built kind of a core agnostic pipeline that can call out to the localization of each region. So the benefit of some of the new features that we're building as part of the deployment of that capital, for example, estate planning, that is going to be something available in every market we serve: the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. Essentially, what we're doing in that one is, we've done some hiring specifically to move faster on the implementation side of it. We've brought in some experts, people with TEP designations, to work with us to test and build. And what we really want to do is connect the holistic lifetime plan to proper and succinct postmortem planning. Be able to work with some of the estate planning software providers out there as a way to kind of connect the financial plan, the holistic plan, to a deeper estate relationship when it's needed. It's not The estate is not necessarily always for those above the exemption. There are things that people want to do in their lifetime to distribute cash or get into philanthropy, that needs to be modeled properly because of the impact across their plan. We're also working on a few AI initiatives, which again I know we'll dig into, but to bring them up, we showed a couple of future proof. One is Conquest as an MCP or a model context protocol server, essentially into allowing essentially Conquest to be a feeder into large language models that we see a lot of firms that are building. So there's a lot of agents that are being spun up at banks and insurers and so on. You do not want those to go out to the internet again, using my Reddit example and saying, hey, give me a financial plan. That's not going to work. But when you have the auditability, the SAM engine, everything with Conquest, it actually makes a copacetic piece of technology that we think also will improve the client and advisor experience. We're doing things around data migration, and then we're also building an Ask Sam agent within our application that's going to, allow for deeper investigation. It's going to help with onboarding and help with questions. Even knowledge-based questions would be huge. It is important. And then there's a few other things that we're kind of looking at doing with respect to that as we kind of, we don't sleep. We have a roadmap that's pretty specific. We want to keep going. Our dev team is rock solid. They're pretty much all of them are planning nerds as well. Never mind my product team and our sales team and everyone here. So, whatever we can do to make everyone's lives easier who's using Conquest, that's where the capital's going.
I know that makes sense. Well, you blew up my roadmap question a little bit.
Sorry.
No, totally fair. That was an absolute Kenergy answer, so I appreciate it. But I do know this area of kind of estate and legacy planning is a focus for you guys, as you mentioned. So I do just want to dig into that a little bit more because as
Mhm.
that planning becomes more urgent with the generational wealth transfer that's underway, that we keep hearing about, the trillions that are
Yeah.
going to be trickle down to the next generations, you know, what specifically then is Conquest building to help advisors guide families through that complexity?
Yeah, I mean, it's that that trickle down of the wealth is a big reason of, and it's a big use case for what we're building. But essentially, in a lot of planning softwares, you kind of get to the end of the plan, and you're like, here's your net estate, and there's some, maybe you could use a trust, maybe you could, do this, that thing, or this thing, or the other thing, which is helpful. But I think we're going to try to take it that next step of essentially showing the impact of some of those estate decisions on your plan much earlier. Again, gifting money away, selling the business, potentially getting into, as I mentioned, philanthropy or charitable donations, all of those things, and then be able to visually demonstrate that distribution of wealth to the dependents and so on. Hopefully, that visualization, that value would then, potentially say, hey, instead of leaving as one of the heirs of potentially money coming down to you, if your parents have that visualization of what's going to be working with you, can we also use that to help create the plans for the next generation and create that stickiness, not just for advisors and clients, but advisors, clients, and their families? I think the ability to have Sam come back and identify the right type of trust, the right type of even the right type of conversations to have will be very important for us, and then kind of lead into basically connect the dots for a lot of the firms out there that provide full financial services or even family offices on the estate side. But it's all about making sure people understand where things are going, and that's always been the problem with us with estate. Sometimes it's very complicated. It's very hard to understand. I understand we're still projecting things way out into the future in some cases, but preparing today is important for making sure that the money goes where you need it to go in the future, and also if you can mitigate some taxes, because why not? So
Hey, that certainly always helps. But even in a similar vein, there's a lot of buzz around next best action planning and real
mhm.
time insights. How is Conquest approaching this, and how are you seeing these features maybe shape a more dynamic and collaborative advisor client relationship?
Yeah, another good question.
Full of them.
So full of them. I love it. So we already rolled out a feature called Sam Insights in November of last year, and so Sam Insights is a feature that's out that identifies, quality and efficacy of the plan, and whether or not the strategies that are being suggested are possible and in the wheelhouse of the client. It also, tracks to make sure, data provided or data coming through integration is correct, and all of those things. We introduced a SAM score along with it, which is a plant quality metric. So the SAM, everything's SAM. So the SAM score itself is something that both the advisor, the client, and actually the firm can use for a barometer for quality on that particular plan. And where that can go from an insight perspective is and what we're doing is we're essentially now building a level that we're calling discovery and insights. So rather than forcing people into the more, a retirement conversation or an education conversation or legacy conversation, we believe that by capturing the data initially from a back office, from custodians, from a large enterprises that we work with, from data lakes, and I know we'll talk a little bit about some of the data in a bit. I think you had mentioned there might be some questions around that we'll get to. But specifically, that is on, when someone gets to our dashboard Discovery Insights, we're going to take the insights that we built in November and make them a lot more specific and identify needs. So as an example, if someone provides their information to advisor or enters it themselves, and there's a significant debt, or student debt or mortgage debt or personal debt, the first thing that the insight might recognize is you don't need to jump into a retirement conversation. Your debt service ratio is egregious. It is having an impact on your ability to save, and so we believe you should actually go down a path of doing a debt management scenario. We actually call those SAM bites. We're introducing the concept of micro journeys to capture those types of conversations. It might be something simple of here's where you should save. So in that same vein, they don't have a substantial relationship with the firm. Maybe they just have a workplace account or something like that, like a 401k or a pension or something like that, and they might benefit from some personal savings. Well, that's what we can suggest. But if they do have a relationship and they've entered information, we can then highlight and say, here's the right time to start talking about retirement. They have retirement. Here's something that changed. The market values are updated. Things have come in. maybe we should start taking a look at reallocating your assets. Maybe we should take a look at decumulation as you get closer to retirement, all of those things. And so we're going to use those insights within the system with Discovering Insights. But because we're built on that open two-way API, we're seeing a lot of firms that are going to pull that back earlier in the journey and use it almost as a way to catch the attention of the client. So good example, someone logs into your banking app. What if your banking app says, hey, I've noticed you have some significant assets with us, but you don't have a particular retirement goal in place. And if, for example, if the bank knows your salary, Conquest can extrapolate what a reasonable retirement goal in the future. Now, the client, even before thinking about creating a financial plan, has provided the insight that it might be something that makes sense for them. So that's something that we think is going to be quite significant. We're already starting to roll out at a smaller scale now, but will become big for us this year.
Well, I'm loving the nomenclature of Sam Bites. So stamp of approval there. And speaking of real-time insights, it's actually time for segment 2 of this episode, Ken, that I call Ask Us Anything. Sure. And I've gone out to the social universe and asked folks to submit questions they want answered by you. And we certainly had a fair amount of folks slide into the DMs this past week. So if you're up for it, real-time insights with Kenergy, if you will. Got a couple questions for you if you're ready for the hot seat.
I am.
All righty. Let's do it. Number one question that you received was, when are you adding a CRM?
So I believe best in class, best in breed when it comes to technology software. So we are built, as I mentioned, on an open two-way API. There are a lot of good CRMs out there. Whether or not what your opinion is Salesforce or name another CRM out there. So we aren't necessarily going to build a CRM. Instead, what we have built is agnostic connections through our API to connect and work with any CRM. So if a firm has a CRM or they're looking at building a CRM or they want help from Conquest to guide them into a CRM that makes sense for them, that's where we'll play. We're not necessarily at this point in time going to go and build our own. We want to work. We want to connect. We want to be part of the journey of a lot of firms that are looking to build their own TAMP, and so not going to build it, but we will connect. We will play. We do capture the data, but I think there's opportunity for us to connect it and look for different ways to do it rather than building our own.
I think that's a fair answer. And this one's very, very specific, which I certainly appreciate, but would love for you to elaborate on this point that actually Mark Evans made on the Josh Brown show that said, if we knew we were going to build a 5 or 10-story hotel with an infinity pool from day one, we would have built the foundation that way. So if you have any context behind that, please.
Yes, I do. So what Mark was referring to in that case was our previous tool, which I shall not name. So again, that Mark started that as a PhD project in the late 80s. And what we knew then and what we thought about financial planning software was limited. Everyone was new to the space and we built it. So it was built as a bungalow. And then over time, as we became the market leader in that other software, we added a few things. And so it kind of became like on top of the bungalow, you're just kind of building other stories and things like that. And, by the time you ask someone for the infinity pool, it was like, well, that's going to require us to, re-chunk the foundation, rebuild it. So with Conquest this time, we had the benefit. We still remember some of the early days, even sitting in Mark's loft and kind of going, if we're going to do this, we need to kind of have the architectural blueprints, the everything that we need. Here is where the infinity pool is going to go. Here is where the mother-in-law suite's going to be. We don't want this. All of those things are built properly and architected, and more importantly, have the foundation core. So we knew very early from day one that we wanted something that was going to scale. We knew we wanted something that was going to be significantly robust in estate planning, in business planning. We knew we wanted to go self-directed. We knew we wanted to engage the client. And then more importantly, Stam was one of our very first thoughts. And so we were fortunate to do it once, use that experience, use that information, leverage the folks and the experience that work here to kind of say, we're doing it again. We want to do it differently. We want to future-proof ourselves.
Love it.
And I think so far, so good.
Yeah, I would say so. All right. Another one for you. So sure. Looking forward, 18 to 24 months, where do you see financial planning systems start and end? Meaning, what do they all cover and how do they relate to CRMs and AI note takers and assistants?
No, great question. So financial planning, I think, is always going to sit in the middle. So CRMs, note-taking apps, and things like that. Let's use kind of like a roadmap analogy for this one. Maybe the best way to do it. So you want to go on vacation and you're going to drive. You want to, those are the inputs. I'm going to drive. I'm going to go somewhere. Take the kids. Take my parents. All of those things. You don't just start driving and hope you get there. If you have that type of dependencies with you on the journey, you need a plan. You need a map. You need to know where the rest stops are. You know where the restaurants are. You need to know what the dog friendly hotel is, all those things. That's the financial plan. It actually ends up being the most important thing of the journey. And I strongly believe that. So, you have all the inputs, you put that in, you start the car, you go, you blow a tire. Well, now, I have to fix it. And so that's an adjustment to your financial plan. Maybe I can no longer retire at 60. I got to retire at 65 and that type of thing. And then the actual destination is obviously in that case is retirement. But along the way, you're opening the accounts. So you're working with, the custodians and some of the tools out there to open them. You're potentially sending your kids to school. You're doing all these things. You all these stops along the way, with retirement being your end destination. And without that proper plan in the middle, you're not able to successfully get everyone there, do the things you want to do along the way, and build it. So I believe planning is going to be the center. I believe and I hope it will be at the center of more conversations and more things of what advisors do. I think we're seeing a big change. For example, in insurance, it's not just, you look like someone who needs a term 10. It's like, no, show the map, show the work. Why do we need that? How is that going to help me now? How is it going to help me later? How is it going to help my family get to that end destination that we have in mind? So that's where I see it all fit.
I think that's a great answer. But most importantly, the final question for you. This one's a hard hitter, so I hope you're ready. But it's, who shot first, Han or Greedo?
Oh, it was Han. 100%. It was Han.
Or does it depend on which edit you're watching?
Well, yeah. If you're not as young as I used to be, but you've seen the theater versions of it back in the day, the original 1977, and not the edits. It was Han, and yeah. So right. I mean,
you said it without hesitation.
Why I think that, but yes.
All right. Well, we know who we need to debate that with. So, Ken, I appreciate you being put on the spot and being put in the hot seat again. And we have come now to our final segment. You've seen me in the t-shirts, stack it or whack it. So I'm going to throw out a few technologies. Maybe sometimes they're not even WealthStack related. Sometimes they're just random thoughts, especially if I know you and you tell me if they are worth the hype or not. Stack it, you love it, whack it, lose it. So first one I have for you. I discovered that Slack was originally founded in Vancouver. So depending on how you feel about workplace messaging apps, stack or whack?
Stack. Full stack.
Okay. Yeah. We are going to stack Slack. That's a mouthful, but I can appreciate that. It's way better than Teams. So yes. I'm probably sure I'm almost confident that's probably an integral part of your day to day using Slack.
I have a Slack sticker on my laptop, funny enough, but that's just because I'm a nerd.
There we go. All right. Another very important question. Stack or whack the Winnipeg Jets 2025-2026 NHL season?
Cautiously stack.
I think you guys will be good again.
I hope so. I mean, I got all the bobbleheads, so
I was gonna say you're showing the support, so that I can appreciate. I am. All right, we had one stack and one cautious stack. I like it. Well, Ken, this has truly been an insightful conversation. We've certainly covered a lot of ground. So please just tell our listeners where they can learn more about you and what you're working on at Conquest Planning.
Yeah, so conquestplanning.com. We're also available on LinkedIn. We're pretty receptive for anyone who wants to chat with us. And then just find us around. So anyone who wants to chat with us, ask questions, feel free. And we're always open to learn more about what people are doing and how we can improve Conquest.
And be sure to like and subscribe to the WealthStack podcast on all major podcasting platforms and follow all things WealthStack on wealthmanagement.com, LinkedIn, and X. Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation.
Are you eager to discover C-level strategies aimed at accelerating RIA growth? Join us at RIA Edge Los Angeles, taking place at the Ritz-Carlton on October 7th and 8th. Register today by visiting riaedgela.com and save 10% with code WM2025.